Today we're going to look at combining like terms. Now, like terms are terms that have exactly the same exponent with exactly the same variable with exactly the same exponent. So an x squared is not like terms with an x to the first power. They have the same variable, they don't have the same exponent. So when we're talking about combining like terms, we're talking about whether we can add or subtract these with each other, and we can't. But 1x squared and then a 4x squared, I can add or subtract because they're both x to the second powers. 4x squared plus another x squared would be 5x squared. The rule for standard form is alphabetical order first. So if I have two different variables, I have a's and b's, all of my a terms would go before any of my b terms. Now within my a terms, an a to the third power would go before an a to the second power before an a to the first. And then the very last thing after I've written all of my variable terms is the constants, so a term that doesn't have a variable at all. The only work you have to show me for these problems is to do a unique underline under each of your like terms. Now, 6m squared. So I'm going to put a straight underline under the m squared, and I'm going to go look for other m squareds, and I find another m squared term. I'm going to use the same underline under that one. I'm going to use this kind of underline under m terms. So I keep looking for m terms. I have two of those. And then maybe a circle under n terms. And a V, let's say, under my constant terms. At a glance, I can tell immediately from my underlines which are like terms, which terms I can add and subtract with each other. So I have m squareds, m to the firsts, n to the firsts, and constants. The order of operation says alphabetical order, so m as in Mary would go before n as in Nancy, and m to the second power should go before m to the first power. So I'm going to combine my m squared terms. In my calculator, I'm going to punch them in exactly the way they look with the coefficients, the 6, and then looking at my other m squared term, plus 4. So I'm going to do 6 plus 4 in my calculator to get 10, so I have 10 m squareds. Now for my m terms, I would punch in -4, and they would go before the n's because, again, alphabetical order, so -4, and then plus 2 because that's directly in front of the other m term. -4 plus 2 is a -2, so I write minus 2m. Don't ever in a final answer write plus a negative or minus a negative. You should have a single sign in here. Plus a negative is the same thing as minus. So when I combine these, if I get a negative, I write it as minus, in this case, 2m. Now for my n terms, I'm going to punch in my calculator +5 minus -3. And when I do that, it's going to say +8. Since it's a +8, I write plus 8n. And then last but not least is our constants. So -8, again, look directly in front to see what's happening with the coefficient. In this case, no coefficient, but just the number. -8 plus -5. And -8 plus -5 is -13, so this becomes -13 at the end. And then I'm done. Again, my like terms, the first one is a constant, so I look and there's another constant. And there may be no like terms with something, or there may be 3 of the same kind sometimes, or maybe even 4. Then I'm looking at y to the firsts and y squareds. Well, constants go last, and within my y's, a y to the second power would go before y to the first power. So I'm going to take my calculator and I'm going to punch in -3 minus, there is a coefficient here. We just don't usually write the 1 coefficient, so this is like -1. And -3 minus 1 is -4 now for the coefficient of my y squared term. Then I go to my y's, +6 minus 3/4. 6 minus 3/4 is 5 1/4, and it's positive, so plus 5 1/4 y. Something to notice here. I did a horizontal fraction bar with my y out to the side. You cannot do a slashy fraction bar like 5 1/4 y, because then it's not clear, is the y in the denominator with the 4, or is this 5 1/4 times y? So don't do that. It needs to be a horizontal fraction bar with the y out to the side of the fraction bar. And then for my constants, it's 4 1/3. Now in your calculator, you have to hit 4, most of you, and then you have a fraction button that looks like an A, B/C, and then 1, and then hit the fraction button again, and the 3 to get the 4 1/3 in there, and then minus 2 3/5, because of the minus in front of the 2 3/5. And when I do that, I get a positive, so plus 1 11/15. And I'm done. The last one, I've got an a term and 2 more a terms. So I'm going to underline all of those with the same underline. And then an a squared and another a squared, and a constant and a constant. Of those, a squareds would go before a's, would go before constants. So when I take negative 3.21 minus a negative 4.35, I get a positive 1.14. Don't forget your a squared. And then 11.241 plus negative 3.42 minus 5.643 gives me a positive 2.178 a, and then a positive 2.354 minus an 8.1 is a negative 5.746, so I write minus 5.746. And now I am done with that one as well. Thank you.